the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Imagine a system, designed entirely to protect the most vulnerable people in society.
Right, like children who've been orphaned, abandoned, or removed from dangerous homes.
Exactly. Now imagine that same system actively functioning as a delivery mechanism for their abusers.
It's horrifying to even think about.
It really is. And that is the harrowing reality laid out in the source material we're looking at today.
Yeah, to understand how a system reaches that point, we're unpacking an article published by Zero Hedge, which is a financial and political news aggregator.
Right.
And it details a recent highly charged debate in Westminster Hall. For context, Westminster Hall is a specific forum in the UK Parliament used primarily for backbench debates.
Usually triggered by massive public petitions, right?
Yeah, especially those. In this instance, Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe was presenting a series of testimonies regarding Britain's migrant grooming-gang scandal.
But before we dive into the specifics of this debate, we really need to establish a very clear boundary for today's deep dive.
Yes, absolutely. The source material we're analyzing is politically charged, incredibly sensitive, and deals with extreme subject matter.
So we have to be clear, our job today isn't to take a side.
No, not at all. We aren't here to endorse a specific political framing or, validate these claims.
Right. We're simply here to impartially report on the material provided to us. We're just conveying the ideas, the witness testimonies, and the arguments exactly as they're presented in the original article.
Exactly. And given the nature of those testimonies, we also need to issue a respectful but firm content warning to you, our listener.
Yeah, the details we're going to cover include graphic descriptions of sexual abuse, severe violence, extreme degradation, and profound institutional failure.
It is deeply disturbing material, so please exercise discretion as you listen to this analysis.
Okay, let's unpack this. The catalyst for this entire debate, the reason Lowe was reading these accounts into the official parliamentary record in the first place, comes down to a staggering number.
A petition signed by exactly 260,974 British citizens.
Over 250,000 people.
Yeah. They were demanding that Parliament formally address this grooming-gang scandal. Over 250,000 people basically felt the normal channels of justice had completely collapsed.
Which forces a public governmental reckoning.
That number is the engine behind this entire event. I mean, Westminster Hall debates are often triggered when public petitions cross a certain threshold, but 250,000 signatures demonstrates a profound level of public outcry.
Right. And according to the text, Rupert Lowe had just concluded a 2-week independent rape gang inquiry.
Yeah, he took the findings of that inquiry straight to the members of Parliament. His opening stance was essentially a condemnation of the state itself,
stating bluntly that this inquiry, and I'm quoting him here, should never have needed to happen.
which sets a very grim stage.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because reading through the testimonies Lowe presented, the thing that immediately stopped me in my tracks was the victim demographic.
The exclusivity of it.
Exactly. The article notes repeated allegations that the victims were almost exclusively white British girls.
Yeah.
And that level of exclusivity, it just doesn't feel like a random crime of opportunity where predators just look for whoever is vulnerable. Based on the text, did these abusers target these specific girls randomly, or was there an ideological component driving this?
Well, the source material is very clear that it was absolutely not random. Survivors testified that the abusers operated with a chilling, explicitly stated ideological justification.
What kind of justification?
The text outlines how perpetrators made constant references to, quote, white girls and Christian girls.
Okay.
They rationalized their actions by claiming these specific girls had fewer morals or lower values.
Wait, so they were actively drawing a cultural contrast to justify the abuse.
Exactly. They contrasted the victims directly with Muslim girls, whom the abusers described as having dignity and higher moral standing.
Wow.
What the text describes is a framework where perpetrators used a specific set of cultural and religious prejudices to rationalize the systematic exploitation of a targeted demographic.
It's almost like a method of psychological distancing.
Yeah, I mean, if a group can convince itself that another demographic inherently possesses lower moral value, they remove the psychological barriers that normally prevent human beings from committing atrocities against one another.
That adds a terrifying layer to the physical abuse.
Yeah.
Because they aren't just attacking these girls physically.
No, they're actively attacking their identity and their faith.
Right. The article details a specific incident with a Christian survivor that illustrates this perfectly.
The one with the cross.
Yes. The abusers reportedly used her cross, a symbol of her faith, as a tool to psychologically break her. They would taunt her during the abuse, asking, "Where is your God now? Has your God forsaken you?"
The sociology of that specific taunt is deeply alarming.
Right, because they're attacking the core belief system.
Exactly. By attacking the belief system, the abusers aren't just seeking physical dominance, they are trying to induce absolute spiritual despair.
Isolating the victim entirely.
Yeah. If a child's faith is their final internal refuge, and the abusers can shatter that, they solidify their total control over the victim's reality. It's an attempt to make the victim believe the universe itself has abandoned them.
It operates almost like a twisted caste system.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, in a standard opportunistic crime, the criminal knows what they're doing is wrong and usually just wants to evade capture.
Right, they hide it.
But according to the source, this subculture established a rigid ideological hierarchy. They convinced themselves that this specific demographic was fundamentally lesser, placed them at the absolute bottom of this artificial hierarchy, and weaponized that caste system to rationalize their cruelty.
They viewed these girls not as human beings, but as a resource to be consumed.
Exactly.
That caste system analogy perfectly captures the dynamic the text alleges. It creates a stark in-group and out-group.
And when you completely dehumanize an outgroup based on race or religion, the constraints of empathy just evaporate.
Right. The violence can then escalate indefinitely, because the perpetrators simply do not see their victims as peers deserving of basic human rights or dignity.
Which inevitably leads to the physical realities detailed in the report. And here's where it gets really profoundly alarming.
Yeah, the sheer volume of perpetrators mentioned in the text is staggering.
This wasn't one or two isolated predators operating in the shadows. The article details a survivor who claimed she was abused over a period of 3 years, starting when she was just 13 years old.
And the number she estimated?
She estimated the number of different men who abused her was, quote, probably about 600 or 700.
We really need to pause and break that figure down mathematically because it changes the entire context of the crime.
600 or 700 men over 3 years.
Which equates to a new perpetrator essentially every other day for 36 months. We have to look at the logistics required for something of that magnitude to occur.
Right, like how does word even spread to that many people without someone blowing the whistle?
It requires an immense, highly coordinated network. It requires word of mouth, shared locations, logistical planning.
And a collective understanding.
Yes, a collective understanding among hundreds of individuals that a specific child is available for abuse.
It also demonstrates an environment where all those men felt absolutely certain there would be no consequences.
Which the text reinforces. It notes this normalized culture of abuse reportedly escalated around specific holidays, like Eid.
Yes, survivors testified that during these times, the parties became bigger, worse, and more violent.
Involving more men and more girls.
And once that dehumanization is fully entrenched, the violence reaches levels of sadism that are difficult to even process. Lowe recounted the testimony of a girl who was only 12, nearly 13.
The Jack Daniels bottle account.
Yeah, the text states she was raped, and then an abuser forced an empty Jack Daniels bottle inside her and intentionally broke the glass.
It's an act of pure destruction. It crosses the line from sexual abuse into extreme physical torture.
It really does.
And the source details other accounts that highlight an obsession with intense humiliation and degradation, frequently involving animals, which serves to further reinforce that caste system mentality.
Like the van incident. One account read to MPs described a van backing up, and when the doors opened, it revealed 15 to 20 girls locked inside dog cages.
They were treating human children entirely like livestock.
And there's another account involving a dog that really highlights the performative nature of this cruelty. A survivor described being forced into an attack involving a dog.
While a crowd watched.
Yeah. While this was happening, she said a crowd of men stood around filming it, laughing, and actively betting on what would happen.
It's just horrific.
She said she had nowhere to move, and one man held her face and just stared into her eyes during the attack because, in her words, he wanted to see me break.
The presence of that crowd is incredibly revealing about the environment these gangs operated in.
Because usually, these crimes are hidden.
Exactly. Crimes of this severe nature are almost always committed in absolute secrecy, driven by the perpetrator's fear of the police or societal backlash. But when you have a crowd of men filming, laughing, and treating the abuse as a spectator sport,
It shows a subculture operating with total, absolute impunity.
yes, they aren't hiding. They are entirely confident that the surrounding systems will not intervene. They feel untouchable.
It's a relentless catalog of cruelty, including another detail in the text about a man allegedly putting a cigarette out on a baby's face.
Which is just, it's beyond comprehension.
It is. Which naturally leads to the biggest question anyone would have when looking at this material. If you have hundreds of men, multiple victims, massive logistical networks, and severe, obvious physical injuries.
How does this completely bypass every single safety net?
Exactly. How do the police, the hospitals, and child protective services miss something this massive?
Well, that is the exact crux of Rupert Lowe's presentation to Parliament. The text reveals that the abuser's actions were inextricably linked to the alleged catastrophic failures of British institutions.
So it wasn't just an oversight.
No, Lowe's argument to the MPs is that the system didn't just accidentally miss this. The text outlines specific systemic breakdowns across multiple pillars of the state that are explicitly designed to protect children.
Let's walk through the mechanics of those institutional failures, starting with the care homes. Because the details here defy belief.
They really do.
According to the text, children who were already wards of the state were effectively handed over. Survivors claimed that men would literally just sound a car horn outside a children's home.
A car horn.
Yes. And upon hearing that horn, a staff member would bring a child to the front door. One survivor was quoted as saying, "It was all of the white girls in every home that I went to."
I mean, consider the mechanics of how a care home is supposed to function. It is meant to be the ultimate safe haven for vulnerable youth.
Right.
For a predator to simply honk a horn and have a staff member deliver a child implies one of two terrifying realities. Either there is a systemic complicity and active participation within the staff,
Which is horrifying.
or there is a level of fear and intimidation so paralyzing that the institution itself submits to the gangs. In either scenario, the institution has entirely failed its mandate. It essentially becomes a vending machine for abusers.
And that failure extended straight into the healthcare system. The text details an account of a 15-year-old girl who arrived at a hospital. She'd been brutally assaulted, she was bleeding, swollen, and in so much pain she couldn't even sit down.
Right. Obvious signs of severe physical trauma.
Exactly. But the article states she was terrified to tell the staff the truth about the assault, so she claimed her drink had been spiked.
And the hospital's response.
According to the testimony, the hospital staff gave her tablets, discharged her, and as the survivor noted, they did not ask any questions.
We really need to analyze the mechanism of that specific failure. In a functional healthcare system, a bleeding, severely injured 15-year-old presenting with a story that objectively does not match her physical trauma should immediately trigger a massive safeguarding protocol.
Triage nurses, specialized pediatric staff, social workers, the police.
They should all be activated instantly. So we have to ask why she was simply given pills and sent away. What breaks down in the mind of a medical professional to ignore their signs?
Was it just bureaucratic apathy?
Hmm?
Or does the text imply something deeper about the political climate surrounding these gangs?
Well, the debate surrounding these institutional failures often centers on a profound paralysis among frontline workers. Was it sheer administrative overload, or was it a fear of investigating the gangs because of the specific demographics involved?
Right, because the text frames these as migrant grooming gangs.
Yes. And historically, investigations into these networks have faced allegations that authorities were terrified of being labeled racist if they probed into these particular communities. Regardless of whether the mechanism in that emergency room was incompetence, fear of political backlash, or cowardice, the safety net completely failed to catch a child in critical danger.
It makes me think of an autoimmune disease.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
Like, if you get an infection, your body's defense network is supposed to attack the invader. But in an autoimmune response, your own defense system, the very cells designed to protect you, turns around and attacks the host.
Right.
What the source text is alleging is that the societal defense network, the care workers, the nurses, the police, either actively ignored the infection destroying these children or in some cases became the disease itself.
That autoimmune analogy is devastatingly accurate, especially when we look at the most damning allegation in the entire report.
Which is?
The text includes a horrifying claim from a survivor who alleged she was raped by multiple police officers in different parts of the country.
Wow. Multiple police officers.
Yes, when the very people entrusted with the monopoly on force and the enforcement of the law are alleged to be perpetrators, the system hasn't just failed. The white blood cells have become the cancer.
The state has become an active, lethal threat to the victim.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Rupert Lowe's overarching argument to those MPs was that this constitutes a fundamental failure of the state.
Right, so he presents all of this horrifying, graphic, systemic evidence to Westminster Hall, confronting MPs with this autoimmune failure across British institutions. And he told the assembled politicians that they have a, quote, responsibility to finally act, not to talk, but to act.
He warned them that Parliament no longer had any excuse for inaction, especially with the impending release of his full independent inquiry report. He was using the sheer weight of these testimonies to force legislative and systemic change.
So let's summarize the core journey of what we've covered today. We've been exploring a Zero Hedge article that details an extraordinarily dark moment in British politics.
Very dark.
It's the story of how an independent inquiry, fueled by a petition with over 260,000 citizen signatures, forced Parliament to sit down and confront these allegations.
Allegations of systemic abuse by migrant grooming gangs, of explicit ideological targeting of young girls.
And of a multi-layered institutional collapse that allowed it to happen.
And as a final piece of context from the source text, the sequence of events here is crucial. The article states that Lowe launched his independent probe before the UK government announced a statutory national investigation into grooming gangs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That subsequent national probe did eventually find evidence of child sexual exploitation across dozens of local authority areas.
Dozens of areas.
It highlights how, in this case, public pressure and independent action preceded the official state response. It reveals that these failures weren't isolated to one town, but were part of a broader national template.
And as we wrap up, we want to remind you, our listener, of our mission today. Our goal was to examine the specific claims made in this text impartially.
Right? Taking no sides.
By breaking down the testimonies, the sociology of the ideological targeting, and the deeply concerning mechanisms of institutional blindness, we hope we've equipped you to better understand the intense debate happening in the UK right now, strictly based on the source material provided.
The material presents a deeply challenging narrative about the fragility of our social safety nets when confronted with organized, ideologically driven exploitation.
And the catastrophic cost when those safety nets fail.
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over on your own, building on the core tensions we've discussed from the text.
Okay.
If it took over 250,000 citizen signatures and a completely independent inquiry just to force authorities to look at a systemic failure of this magnitude happening right under their noses.
What does that tell us about the blind spots in the institutions we trust to protect the most vulnerable among us?
Exactly. It is a profound question that demands real reflection.
It certainly is.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Deep dive in the building. UK, what really good? Let's dive in. Let's dive in. Get triggered, Netflix. You son of a bitch. In your show Adolescence, you pulled a race switch. The real killer teen is black. You made him white. This ish just ain't right. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe. Conservative values in our souls, they're interweaved. With courage and with honor, we'll hold our ground. For freedom, for tradition, in this land we found. We cherish our Constitution, the words that set us free. The right to bear arms, to speak and to agree. We honor our forefathers who fought with steadfast might for the dream of a nation shining bright in the night. In every town and village, in every heart and home, we'll uphold our principles. Together we'll roam. Through trials and through triumphs, we'll never lose our way. With concern Dive deep into our values, hold them close and true. For conservative hearts, there's no limit to what we can do. We're diving deep